That would be
So
nice.
today we are talking with the Austrian artist Anima, Alexandra Nima. And Alexandra, would you tell some words about your mission in this life, your goal, your purpose as an artist, and why are you wearing this mask?
Okay, I have to start early because that's relevant for this. Okay, so I was 9 years of age. When I was 9 years old, 3 important things happened. I had a very unusual dream for a child, but I have a lot of unusual dreams very early. I read a certain type of book that would influence a lot of what was to come. 2 books were important, at 9 and at 19.
Can you tell us what kinds of books?
I read Viktor Frankl, and Viktor Frankl, who is the father of logotherapy, making sense, also a concentration camp survivor, multiple concentration camps, and one of the fathers of psychoanalysis. We had books. We were a highly well-read intellectual family with a grandfather who was a mathematician and philosopher, and he had also some psychology books lying around. So they were readily available. Nobody told me to read, and I just I just read whatever I could grab. I loved reading very early. And for a 9-year-old to read the hardcore, in-depth trauma therapy book is pretty unusual. Of course, as a child, you only understand half of it. When I read Freud, 12, 13, I had no concept of libido. How can you as a child? But some things you understand. And if you are a child who grows up in a very well situated, but very fake family, reading a book about making sense in life, despite hardship, it makes great sense. Probably this is why these books found me. And but more importantly, because I was smart and I was strong and really early developed child, it also made me think about what this means for society, you know. And there were a lot of things I saw around me, not just in the family, but everywhere, that didn't seem right. There were injustice everywhere. And my early stuff I wrote, and adults used to crack jokes on me. Oh, you're so immature, and you're so prepotent. Well, I was an intellectual child. The essays that I wrote between 9 to 12, some teachers loved them, but many said, oh, you can't write about politics, you're a child, what do you understand? So I wrote about justice, I wrote about authenticity, and I wrote about just what life really should be like. Because I did not understand as a child, with all the possibility I saw, why people who are staying so locked up inside them, you know, they never live. And many people I saw lived but were false or didn't live at all. And so I read this book and I had some dreams, and I made a decision at 9 years of age. I made a decision as a very old soul with many reincarnations. I wouldn't have phrased it like this at that point, but I made a decision to stay at this planet because it was the first time I was given a way out. I'm an old soul. There were some things that were not okay happening to me, and I was given the option to basically leave. But I didn't, because I felt I still had something to do on this planet. I didn't know at that point what it would be. I knew it would have something to do with this new thing I found, like psychology, philosophy maybe, which was my first love. So I never really differed between psychology and philosophy, because for me, psychology was philosophical. Because what do you do with a tool you don't use? Because, you know, you have these tools And people don't use, even a psychologist don't use it. I didn't understand why, but that came a bit later. But I saw books with great tools, great people, great ideas, great stories. And
can you give an example, Alexandra, of one tool that you use every day in your everyday life and really recommend, advise, or use other people?
What do you mean?
Tool, psychological tool.
I don't consciously use them anymore. It's been too long. But I mean, well, one thing I learned or decided for very early was you have two choices in life. You wear a fake mask. Mine is not fake, by the way, it's something else. You wear a fake mask and people will accept you in your status, but you will be unhappy because you're never yourself. Or you are like me, which gets judged a lot, and you suffer too. But you suffer because some people will not accept you. Some people will be happy, but some will not accept you. They will say, how can you be this way? So my choice was for authenticity rather than the other side, because I could see how much suffering and chaos it caused in the family. This decision came between 11 to 14. So at 14 I actively decided I would try to be as expressive as possible, because I was very shy. Well, appeared shy. I was not very open. I didn't like to show my emotion. I was a thinker. But I figured if I do this, it helps people, it's cathartic, it will help people to be themselves more, and maybe then everyone around me becomes a little bit more open and a little bit more happy. And this is what I wanted, you know. So this I use, but I don't use it anymore because I've become a long time ago. And then something else, but also came around later, so 14, 15. I was very much into spirituality from 14, 15 on. This came from Jung and also from a little bit of Frankl. Just transcendence was like a fascinating thing for me. I didn't understand, but I tried to explore. And I read this one book about the shaman tribe, a Native American shaman tribe. And I don't know where they are. Sorry for my Native American friends. I don't remember the tribe, but you will know. The shamans in this tribe, one of their jobs is to do things the other way around as a cathartic action. So for example, a normal person would walk like this. The shamans would always move backwards. They would always go like this, and people would go like, what the heck is he doing, you know? Or for example, the shaman would just do the opposite always, as much as possible of what you expect. And this creates, you will know in the mind, it breaks up this neural, you know, because it's unexpected, it's always unexpected. And sometimes it helps the people that get sick because they can't break out, it helps them to break out. It was also a concept that I explored later in improv theater, that I also explored quite a bit. It was also a challenge for me because I wasn't as open as I'm now. I was sometimes too shy and sometimes too slow. I wanted to be this super expressive, super powerful person that would grab people and you know, help them, drag them out of situations, but sometimes I was just powerless. But often I helped in many ways. But yeah, so these two things, the doing things the other way, maybe also going against your gut feeling, which can work, but sometimes it's not a good idea. So I also did use this tool for myself, not just doing things for others to see, but doing things against my own intuition. I don't advise that to people though, because most of the time your gut feeling is right. But sometimes when you like see a person because I was also familiar with projection, and I was young, so I wasn't free of this shit. Sometimes you see a person and you don't like the person. But how do you know? Why is that? You can't tell. It's just a feeling. Maybe the person is nice. And sometimes I stepped over my resistance, and these became the best friends. Because they were different. I didn't know them. My instinct was, yeah, you don't know it. Who knows what this person is doing? But 90% of the time, when your gut feeling warns you, you should not go against it. Because intuition, especially when you're older, gets better. And then you end up in some crappy situations. I also had this experience. Sometimes you can get very lucky that you end up alive. But two things are good: breaking rules in a healthy way, and being yourself. Sometimes maybe even in an exalted, artistic kind of way, you know what I mean? If it helps, everything that helps to express yourself and feel better and be cathartic is good for you and for other people, as long as no one gets hurt. Or no one gets, you know, it's I think it's good, and it should get used. We should know how to deal with our heads more, because this is the main thing, and nobody teaches you how to use the extraordinary plasticity our brain has, the extraordinary options you have. Because if you're open-minded, then you can go into high-level spiritual techniques who will teach you how to see even more. Because there's techniques in different cultures. They teach you how to feel, almost develop a second sense for opportunities. And that can help you as an artist, as a business person, as any person, you know. Because your intuition will get better. You can almost feel where it's going. And as some South American shamans say, or some shaman told me, he said, like, why do you care looking for a job? There's a job around every corner. It's true. Because you meet 100 people around the corner. What do you know? You know? But if you have this feeling, then you will feel it. But that, of course, is a very high-level skill. You can't have that if you don't know yourself, if you haven't transcended yourself, and if you're not in like sort of the higher, almost energetic feeling kind of realm. And this is most people don't ever get there, which is a shame, because if they did, everyone would instinctively and very fast find their individual thing, and there would never be competition. Also, if everybody explored their full potential, or even half of it, never would there be any competition for anything, because every person, if it's the true person, true individuality, in the good sense, it's like apples and pears. Even in opera, because Yi Jin, you interviewed this Chinese, is it tenor, like a singer, and he was talking about the importance of pushing the best talent to make art even better. I agree. But what would happen if you'd really push people, and this competition would diversify, and every one of these people would then have a special skill that would not make them competition anymore. It would just create more diversity. And in a sense, more jobs or opportunities for everyone. But this is not how most people see the world. And because most people never get beyond, I have a brain, okay, I have some emotions, I don't know what to do with them. And I have the luck of being exposed to these hardcore thinkers as a child. So my whole brain, imagine 9 years of age, the brain always develops, but the brain between 9 and 20-ish, it develops intensely. So my whole thinking, my whole life, my whole idea of the world is so contrary in 90% of the time to other people that even I find it, with my empathy and my interest in people, I find it extremely hard to communicate how I really feel. Some people get me instantly, but it is very difficult, and it's a shame, especially for my art, because if people understood instinctively what I want to do, that I tried with my costumes to help them express themselves by mirroring my beauty and my inside out, then they would like me, or they would probably like me, and wouldn't attack me for stuff I have nothing to do with, like, oh, yeah, surely that looks like a BDSM suit. No, I'm the opposite of this. I'm also demisexual, but okay, think what you want. Projection, you know? Or like, she must be crazy because she's expressive. I'm even more expressive in my suit because that comes from the theater and from the opera. Oh, she must be crazy because no normal person would wear this suit. True, no normal person would wear this suit because I'm not the normal person when I'm in the suit, because this is self-transcendence. This is an art concept with me inside, but me inside and what I'm on the outside with this specific kind of mask, if you want. This is a performance. It's not me. I'm very boring, I'm very conservative. As a normal person, I would certainly do more extravagant things as an artist. I'd be more expressive. But I wouldn't go crazy like other people. So I'm still somewhat conservative. But that's, I mean, the point is that this is like an extension of my higher self. Whereas, of course, underneath this cloth is a human. But the human underneath might be very different from what I do to trying to help people be more expressive. If that makes sense.
Great.
Yeah.
Your very unusual path.
Yeah.
Can you tell about this? What do you mean, unusual path?
Unusual in the way my brain developed, because I was exposed to stuff most people don't touch before they're 25 to 35 or older. Also because, well, because of this, I for myself decided that I would spend my years 20 to 30 at least on learning as much as I could, developing as much as I could as an artist. The kids, I like children, always liked them, but they were not on my mind. Also, the way I was educated, I resisted a lot of ideas they tried to, give me. Also, my family, I think they were never really pushing me to have a child either, so it wasn't relevant. So I had, when other people try to make children as soon as possible, in some cultures, at least in Russia, for example, is earlier than in Austria, but still both is early, too early, I think. I was not concerned about it, not because I'm egomaniac, but because I wanted to build. I dealt with the id, the dark side, very early. Also very early, like in comparison to other people. So I didn't need to be evil, That's very important because most people can't handle this, so they are very nasty to other people. It wouldn't cross my mind unless I'm attacked and someone is really nasty. Then but not for myself. Why would you hurt anyone because you are in a bad mood? It's just insane. It creates more pain. Anyways, so I dealt with the id in my teens. I dealt with the ego, like, who are you? What do you like? What clothes do you want to wear? The basic stuff. What are your interests? In my 20s. And when this was finished, at around 27, 28, I started to transcend. At this point, I already had a concept what it was, and I was very spiritual. I trained with a grandmaster, Chinese grandmaster at 21, and that continued this until like my late 20s. And I was full and I was whole and I was myself with maybe a few percentage. I was not completely developed. Psychologists say individuation is a continuous process. True, but I believe from my own biography that to become your own true self, real individual, the core, and then you have the personality around the core, you can form that if you work on it and have a really stable core, like maybe in your mid-20s, if you know what to do and if somebody helps you or you help yourself. And when that happens, you're full, you're fulfilled. No matter what you will see, no matter what you explore in your life, you have already all you need. And that is knowing who you are. I knew who I was. And then I thought, now what do I do now? I'm only 28, I looked so young. We all look younger in the family, it's also my autoimmune. So it makes the skin, the histamine makes the skin just, it's like wound healing all the time. So we look younger. And so I was like, I looked like a child and I was a woman almost. And I thought, what do I do now? And I always wanted to change this injustice on the world on many levels. And I had this weird idea since I was 19. Also one book and one vision at 19. And this idea, I kept it with me for almost 10 years. But it was too crazy for me to dare to live it and to do it. Because I had an idea since I was 19 what to do with my gifts. But I was unsure because, you know, society was different from what I thought it could be like. And I knew there would be a lot of resistance and Austria is very conservative. So I was like, okay, but I'm there now, so fuck it. So I started my art blog, Anima's Lab. I already had the idea I wanted to be Anima, so maybe change the name, maybe just adapt the stage name. And I wanted to have a band. And I wrote this band concept. And this band concept is basically a walking therapy. If it would have worked this way. And it starts with this flamboyant second skin archetype-based costume. Like, for example, I wear the metamorphosis. I wanted to do the classical archetype cycle, the sage, the lover, the warrior, and I started with the warrior dress. I still have my idea of a warrior dress because it's still me underneath, so I have to start somewhere. But it's a warrior dress, everyone understands. Here it's a bit difficult with the butterflies, so this is like the dress I wanted to wear in between archetypes. And I wanted to base a whole cycle of, because Bowie and other people, Annie Lennox, have worn masks, but it was always just an artistic expression. And I thought people need a structure, especially when they're young. And when they're young, and I did a lot of research on that and even wrote a paper on this, when they're young, pop and rock music is so formative. You need to help them grow, and you can do it best by reaching them via music. So I have to have a band where I have this archetype costume, one archetype at a time. One, for example, first album, The Warrior, because warrior in women is not being used that much, and women need to be taught to be more when it needs to be, only when it needs to be, but you know, strong. So that would have been the first one. The Amazon would have been the first album. A whole album with music to match. So for example, then in this case, rock. And we would have this album where people would get help, in a sense. All the songs would be about being a strong woman, fighting something. Like rock hymns, basically, to help people grow. And then there would be another album on the lover. And it will all be soft and lovely and beautiful. And the colors would change. And everything would change. Because at this time, my psyche, my personality was already very fluid. You know, through theater times as well, and this kind of energy work from Asian martial arts works with the energy, with visualization a lot. So my inside was really fluid. I could change if you wanted me to, with a stable core, but completely however you wanted me to change. Of course, as a private person, I don't need this, but for art, this is very interesting. And no one has done this before, you know, because most of the people who use these crazy flamboyant dresses, Annie Lennox an exception, but most people use this because they saw these visions on drugs, or, you know, because they were slightly off. And I don't like it when art and mental problems, I don't like the term mental illness, when art and mental problems are being thrown in one pot. Because many artists only become mentally ill after all the stress, because art is the worst self-employment you can have. It's so hard, it's so hard. It's worse than any other job in the world. And you really have to be an amazing person to want to do art. The artists, you mentioned Goethe. You know Schiller's The Artists, this poem? It says that the artists, in our hands, we give the best of mankind. You are the ones who show us the best that exists, that what mankind can potentially be, self-transcendence. And this is what I wanted to do. Show people how different you can be, show them it's possible, show them to explore their facets, the warrior, the fighter, the sage, the crazy butterfly if they want to, you know. And yeah, this is how the whole thing started. Yeah.
You said, my mask is not fake.
No, it's not fake. Because it's not me. People use fake faces, like social roles, because they're scared, because they are told they have to, or because if they're a psychopath, to get something, you know, like a favor or manipulate the person. This is an intention. So most of the time masks are not really conscious masks. This, it's called a mask. Even makeup is called a mask in opera, because it's different face. So this different second skin, different face plus body, different body, is a conscious extrapolation, like extraversion, I would say, extraversion of a personality aspect. And so it's not fake, because it comes from my true self. It's an aspect of the true self transcended. And well, it's pretty obvious, not fake. It's tangible, right? I mean, it's obviously a fake thing. Sometimes you can't tell, is it fake? It's also an illusion, but it's a more like nasty illusion. This is not a nasty illusion. This is an in your face with a baseball bat illusion. That's how it was supposed to be, like I learned from the marketing lessons I had, like in business studies. You have to have this image, and it has to be you, but 200 times you. And also took that for my art. So it was like I'm a walking billboard. I'm a walking billboard for self-expression, if you want, that is supposed to be therapeutic for other people. Had I known what I did to myself when I started being active as an artist, I might have not done it, because that's another story. And that, because all these misunderstandings from people and my strength, and when I was not so strong anymore, specifically with the autoimmune, it created so much aggression for other people. And it created so much, I wouldn't say resistance, just, pushing away. And this for me, as an empath, was so hurtful, because I wanted to pull them close, and I didn't want to scare them. I didn't want to make them aggressive. One time we were almost raped, because I was out with two friends of mine. They helped me, because I was still not very comfortable with the warrior suit that it was. They helped me walk around in Vienna, taking the suit for a walk, so that I could get used to it. Because when you're not used, right now it feels okay. But when I started, it was very unusual, because the mind, even though open, still thought, okay, you're looking weird. And do you really want to do this? It was difficult for me to fuse with this. I wanted it, but it took a while. So I had to train my brain to accept this new look. And so we went psychologically warm up, in a sense. I know this can be interpreted as weak, but I think it's just, the brain is not always flexible. And I knew I was going to put myself out there for potential reactions, whatever. And that was really scary. They looked at us. That was unfortunately, because Lady Gaga just happened when I started, and everybody completely misinterpreted me. Her fetish and BDSM shit, her addictions, her crazy stuff, her prostitution of femininity, which is the opposite of what I wanted to do. It was 2 days before the Lady Gaga concert when we went for a walk, and I didn't know because I wasn't a Lady Gaga fan. I knew her, but I wasn't a fan. So I asked my friends to go for a walk. We go out, the first guy starts to whistle the songs that I knew, and I was like, no, I have nothing to do with her, let me tell you. And I talked him down for 10 minutes.
Would you like to meet her?
No, thank you. I already met her on the dream plane. I turned into this lizard with this shawl, and I screamed her down. I hated this. I was so angry, even in the deepest depths of my psyche. I met her and I was so angry at her. Because this is, for me, I wanted to pull art away from stigma, from artists must be mentally ill. And I wanted to pull art away from prostitution. Why do women artists prostitute themselves? Because they have no money, and because some people are stupid enough and traumatized enough. Traumatized enough mainly, but some are also don't care. But when you traumatize, people can do, not for everyone, but most people, when they're traumatized, people can do anything with you because you're so hurt and vulnerable. And I wanted to create positive, healthy, happy art, expressive art, alive art, And yeah, but anyways, so he whistled this after us, and the next 3 guys were Turkish, and they looked at me with this mixture of, oh my God, I want to shag it, and I don't know what to do with it. It's not normal. Do I shag it and kill it, or do I just kill it and shag it later? This was the vibes we got, and we all 3 felt it, and we were so scared. We just virtually ran home because they thought it's, this prostitution thing, Maybe they just didn't even know Lady Gaga, but probably did. But anyways, it was a very terrible experience, and yeah, so not like I intended.
Alexandra,
yeah.
But thanks to your image, I guess a lot of people is interested to know more about you and your work as an artist, yeah? And this is, I see just a way to pay attention to you, yeah? To be
yes.
To be interesting.
Yes, interest is okay. But this hypersexualization that comes from men is not okay for me, because I'm demisexual. I even consider it more of a threat. But
yes,
yeah.
But do you think in a positive way about your image and?
I did get some people who were reacting positively when they understood that I was not doing this for myself. But these were like maybe 10% of people. The other people were sex-thinking people, like,
But maybe if you smile them or
what?
Do something like that, smile them and send them some gestures of friendly gestures.
When I was friendly to these people, they usually wanted more. And that's the problem. I understand that as an artist, as an entertainer, you have to give a part of yourself. Yeah, sure, that's what I want. But I think the problem really is that most people are sexual people. They think differently, and I don't react to these things instinctively. So for me this is quite scary, and also because I had guys who were not taking no for a no, and they just came all the time. Because when I was younger, I was really attractive, apparently, and I hated that. I hated this constant attention. Look, I don't understand why. Like, okay, it's a crazy suit, right? It's nice. It's.
No, it's not crazy. It's not crazy. It's like butterflies.
Yeah, it's lovely, right?
Lovely, yes.
Yeah.
Why?
Why would you think this is a BDSM suit? Because people, that was like at least 40% of reactions were like this. And then there were some people who said like, oh look, I get it. I'm lonely too, I'm different too, and I'm like, yeah, but that's not my problem. I want to help you with self-expression. This is not a pity thing. This is not, I'm not doing this because I need to.
So different perceptions of your image. Yeah? And maybe you are provocative. Yeah?
Yeah.
And you try to urge people to think about existence of others, maybe, yeah? To think about something unusual, yeah? Like queer people. And in Western culture we see a lot of queer people and gay prides.
Yeah.
And a lot of unusual people. So why do you face with so aggressive reaction in most cases?
Well, not aggressive, but hypersexualized. Because society is very sexualized in the wrong way. You know, it used to be more boy meets girl, and it used to take for people to develop some emotion. At least that's, I was told it was like this or in earlier times. And so sometimes these societal, not masks, but these barriers were maybe not so bad. Now we have this, everything has to be with sex, all the advertising. I don't like it. I would have had a Venus album, yeah, that's before my voice went away due to the autoimmune, but I wanted to deal with this erotic love and beauty in one album. But there's a huge difference between that and porn, you understand? And we have a porn society in very many things, and many kids, specifically men, of course, grow up with this, and it's not very healthy, because it creates... This should be pathologized, not... Some of the people like me who are very open are being pathologized because the people say, oh, she doesn't have barriers. Oh, I have barriers. I have very clear barriers. Trust me on that. But I am, when I interact with a person...
Yes, I know it. You asked me first of all to wear a mask.
Yeah. Yes, well, you have to, because...
To use a sanitizer, yeah.
Yes. But that's for health reasons, so it's kind of like, you know, makes sense. But anyways, but so in some ways people get stigmatized for being too loving and too open, and in other ways they don't get stigmatized, but they develop, or it's facilitated to develop sick habits. Because if I think about women as porn all the time, this is mental rape, you know. This is not what we... There's nothing to say against sex. I have sex too, not so much as normal people, but I have. And it can be very wonderful, and it can be more wonderful if the man knows himself and the woman knows herself, or transgender people, gender fluid people, whoever you have sex with. If you know your partner and you're fine with your own bodies, and you're like also a bit spiritual, this can be beyond beautiful experience. But this kind of sex that people grow up with nowadays, facilitated by this porn. And this porn music, like music videos, really, that are almost porn. I've seen them. I mean, even in the charts, it's crazy. This creates an elimination of barriers, but in a wrong way. This facilitates also thinking that you can have any person. And unfortunately, because at the same time we have a lot of trauma in society.
So consumerism, yeah.
Yes. This consumerism paired with so much trauma, specifically a lot of sexual trauma, more in some countries, more than in Austria, this creates vulnerable people, young vulnerable people, and predators people who will take advantage of them. And then it creates more and more trauma, and it creates an elimination of barriers that a lot of people think is freedom. No, that's not freedom. Freedom is being free in the mind, being yourself, knowing that almost whatever happens to you, almost, not everything, but knowing that crazy shit can happen to you and you still know yourself, at least. Or you at least know yourself so you can heal. This is okay, but with this pornification of the society, it suggests to people that this really is freedom, to fuck around with everybody. This is not only dumb. If you listen to Sadhguru, I like Sadhguru, but I don't agree with everything he says, but I agree. And also Asian culture has the same thing. African culture, Senegalese warrior I talked to said the same thing. If you fuck with a lot of people, you destabilize yourself. You basically fuck up your whole spirit body in a sense. And I agree. I agree because maybe I'm built differently. But this guy was like a normal built guy. But he learned it from his tribe. And it's not a good thing. And unfortunately, I love LGBTIQ people. Really, I love it. I have interviewed some. I have lived with trans people. Specifically, trans people are very close to my heart. But I see in this path of self-exploration that specifically LGBTIQ people, with all their pressures and traumas and hate directed towards them, undertake on this path. They start to identify sexual excess, sorry guys, specifically the guys, sexual excess with freedom. This is not it. Yes, men may have stronger hormones and stronger, a stronger visual mind and stronger direct way of doing things. So this all goes together, yeah. So, but a real man, if a real man developing his personality, will be much calmer, much less sexual, much more into 360-degree view of things like women are. And a real woman who is developed will have that, and she will also be able to think like a man to a degree. Because why? If you build out your psyche, every psyche has male, female, neutral aspects, and if you deal with this, you can be anything. And as a result of this, everything becomes calm, becomes grounded, becomes more tender. Because that's the spiritual ladder. Animal, normal human, superhuman. And superhumans don't really have that much sex. That's a common thing for every enlightened person. Or no sex at all. Only if it happens and it's destiny or something. And they are usually pacifist. Why? Because everything is one. There's love, and you don't need to do anything else. You still see shit if you're a real enlightened person. You will see it, and it will not leave you cold in a sense. But yeah, and that's the problem. This sex gets identified with freedom. Real freedom is only in the mind. It has nothing to do with you mindlessly banging somebody, and it shocks me every time. I love LGBTIQ, but when I see the orgy ship in Vienna, there's this place, they have an orgy ship, and this is not the first time I've seen this. When they celebrate, sometimes some queer people celebrate, they seem to only be able to celebrate with some orgy stuff. Same thing Silicon Valley people and drugs. It's always drugs and excessive sex in Burning Man festival. I love Burning Man. Wonderful stuff. Sculptures, dancers, beautiful people. And what do they have? An orgy dome. I'm like, it's not gonna free you. It's gonna re-traumatize you. A person who has had sexual trauma many of them will try to be overtly sexual because they want to repeat and heal this process. But that is the wrong way to go. If you're traumatized, do not have excessive sex. And this is not funny. You're not going to heal your trauma by having excessive sex. You're going to heal your trauma with a very, sorry, I'm interfering in your domain here, but you're going to heal this best, 90% chance, depending on the severity of the trauma, by choosing very carefully who you have sex with, if you still have the desire to. And if you don't have the desire, you should maybe just deal with people more and try to like slowly expand your barriers again if you're like this, because trauma can make you go this way, or it can make you be very excessive with alcohol, with sex, with all kinds of things. And the worst way to heal a trauma is by being overtly sexual. And yeah, you will hear this, by the way, because I've met a couple of prostitutes in my life. Some of them were retired, some of them were active, some of them were housewives in very rich households, some of them were students. And I've watched a lot of documentaries because I was very interested in this. This interests me, and psychopathology interests me very much. So trauma and psychopathology is very interesting for me. So I've watched since I was a child. I don't understand it because I'm no psychopath and I'm no prostitute, but I try to somehow at least understand a bit. And every retired prostitute that became at least a bit spiritual and grounded later, which is a hard process, I assume, from what I've seen, will tell you, and there's even porn stars who became medical doctors, they will tell you that this wasn't good for them because it just re-traumatized them. They had so much shit that they happened to them because they were available to everyone. And so if you're a young person and you have experienced sexual trauma, please do not, whoever tells you to, whoever it is, even if it's your best friend, do not engage in excessive sex. I wish, to be honest, it's not my domain, but I wish there were some kind of therapy form for this as well. Because my archetype thing, if you expand this into a therapy form, can help you with a lot, but could help. But with sexual trauma, I wish there were some kind of therapy form that would somehow desensitize you and at the same time heal you. But I haven't, to be honest. I know a lot, like psychodrama and all these things, you know, they're all quite interesting. There are so many techniques you can use for healing people. But because sexual trauma is so hardcore and it's so specific, I haven't seen anything that I could recommend to people that would be useful, unfortunately. So yeah, I mean, a lot of, and oh, by the way, SM, since that was mentioned, it's no coincidence that in SM of all places, they started with the hugging parties. That was so fun. I saw that because a friend, anyways, I researched, and a friend was very active in the scene, so she gave me some links, and I was like, really? It's an SM club and they have a cuddling party with no sex rule. That was really surprising at first. But then I understood, because SM is also about power and sexual power, and many people who really do SM for life try to escape the trauma they had. That had to do with a power disbalance and some sexual digression, like sexual going over a border, right? So they try to restore their border because SM is very rigid and very rule-driven. So they try to be in control, whether there's a dominant or subservient. Usually subservient, but I haven't really understood because they try to explain it to me, but I just find the whole thing scary. But I understood instinctively that it has to do with a reenactment. It's a reenactment of some kind of transgression of boundaries, usually sexual. And it doesn't work. Because why? You try to heal fire with fire. You try to heal a sexual trauma with a sexual act. Plus all the hormones during sex, you will get addicted. You will get addicted because of the hormones involved, no matter what you do, and pain too. Are you crazy? You're shitting your brain with pain, the brain receptors in the brain to push out like everything from opioids, endorphins, all this stuff that happens in the brain when you do some pain to your skin or cause your skin pain, and the sex that brings up all this usually endorphins or oxytocin, and depending on if you touch or whatever. So all this stuff you're showering, it's an addiction. If it isn't an addiction at the beginning, it will become an addiction. That's why real SM people, from what I've seen, do it for life. And they never get out of it. But if it were so great, you would get out of it, but you don't. And in this movie, even if it's a trash movie, but that was one really authentic film in this, with Christian Grey, what is it called? This SM movie. She heals him in the end, but she heals him through healthy boundaries and bringing him over to a healthy idea of sex and partnership, you know, by always not giving him what he wants, by always trying active work. But this is not going to happen in real life. But he and all the people in this movie, like this dominatrix, they never get out of it because it's an addiction and it's remaining in trauma by trying to heal it with the wrong tools. So I'm sorry for everyone who is into SM who watches this. I've once been called naughty subby. I'm not a subby, and I don't understand you people. I don't want to understand you people. It's way too... I'm politically incorrect now. It's way too unnatural for me. I prefer natural sex, the way it was intended if I have sex. Thank you. I could even be that traumatized, to be honest, to not want it. But maybe you should cut this out because this could insult people and I don't want to hurt or insult people. But the first part about SM being a kind of therapy, that's why they had these hugging parties, because they noticed it was also to deal with boundaries, and it also had to do with acknowledging that there's trauma and that some people need normal touch, you know, and loving touch. But it was bizarre to find this event in a list of hardcore latex fetish, come with your dick in your hand events, you know, like it was kind of like, yeah, I'm conservative, what can I say?
Alexandra, thank you so much for this interview. It was really interesting to talk to and listen. And I hope we can continue our conversation next time and talk about new things, and you can inspire people to be themselves, to be true persons, to express themselves as you do it every day. And thank you very much for this so interesting, positive and real artistic, I say it's a speech, inspired speech. So
I'm sorry I talked too much.
See you soon. It was great. It was great, Alexandra. Thank you so much.